Hi everyone! In today's video, I'll show you how to make buckwheat quinoa bread that is naturally leavened, so essentially sourdough bread. First, you'll need to soak raw buckwheat groats and quinoa. So add the buckwheat and quinoa to a large bowl, cover the seeds with water, and let them soak for 4 to 6 hours at room temperature. You can also just use buckwheat to make this bread, it's up to you. Drain the soaking water and rinse the buckwheat and quinoa. Now, this step is optional, but I like to sprout the seeds before using them for the bread because sprouting boosts fermentation activity, and fermentation will cause the bread to rise. The bread will rise even without sprouting the seeds, but it will take longer. I typically leave the buckwheat and quinoa in the strainer set over a bowl to drain any excess water. After 6 to 8 hours, sprouts should start to emerge. If there are no sprouts, rinse the seeds again and leave them for 6 to 8 more hours. Add the sprouted or just soaked seeds to a high-speed blender together with fresh water and blend until smooth. The batter will be slightly gritty, but there should be no visible seeds. Transfer the batter to a clean bowl, cover it with a piece of cheesecloth, and let it ferment for about 14 hours at 80 degrees Fahrenheit. The fermentation time will depend on the ambient temperature and whether you sprouted the seeds. You're looking for the volume of the batter to increase by about 30% and for lots of air bubbles on top and throughout the batter. At the end of fermentation, gently mix in salt, preserving as much volume and air bubbles as possible. Pour the batter into a loaf pan and let it rise for 30 to 60 minutes. Bake the bread at 350 degrees Fahrenheit until the crust turns golden brown and the sides of the bread pull away from the loaf pan for about 90 minutes. Let the bread cool completely before slicing, and that's it. Naturally leavened buckwheat quinoa bread. If you like yeast leavened bread, this type of sourdough bread is a little bit different. Now, Tanner is somebody who eats yeast leavened bread, typically made with white flour every day, sometimes several times a day. So how do you like this bread?
I am impressed. I think the crispness of the crust, in contrast with the crumb, the interior, is really good. I like that contrast. It's nice and malleable and soft in the crumb, so that's good. And then the saltiness is right where it should be in terms of flavor. There's a tanginess, which you would associate with sourdough bread. The aftertaste, though, is where I would say the most interesting thing happens. It's like an earthy overtone in the aftertaste, but it drops off really quickly into like a neutrality, a very light kind of flavor. So that's impressive. I think that means it would blend well, like if you were making sandwiches with it, or you were trying to mix it with something else, some other ingredient. I think it would lend a little bit of like saltiness, but also neutrality, if that makes sense. It's really good.
Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, comment below, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time.